Yuri and I back again, this time air masses. So the day 2 video. Air masses control weather, they control fronts, they control a lot of stuff. We've been kind of getting these updates on different weather systems throughout the year. So this isn't the first time we've heard it. Okay. There's a few different kinds of air masses. They come from two different places, land or water. Okay. So it's the first thing we got to look for. Did it come from the land? Did it come from the water? The other thing is, did it come from where it's cold or where it's warm? So that's going to control what the air is like. Okay. Now, if we draw some side views, okay, say here's the side view of the Earth, and you have air mass A. So air mass A is sitting over Earth, right? Air mass A is going to be cold air because it's coming from up north, Alaskan air, okay? Cold air wants to sink. Can we see that? There's a little. Okay, cold air wants to sink because cold air is heavy. So cold air masses are high pressure. Now, A is coming from the water, and you would think that adding water to air makes it heavier, but it actually makes it lighter a little bit. So the water makes the air want to rise just a little bit, actually. Adding water to air actually makes it lighter. Okay, so this is kind of a high pressure air mass, but it's not super high pressure because the wetness makes it want to rise up a little bit. Now, if you have an air mass like B, okay, here's the Earth, and we're looking at an air mass like B that is sitting there, okay. B is cold, so cold air wants to sink, but it's also dry, and dry air is actually super, super heavy. Drier air is heavier than wet air. It's very weird. But this is really high pressure, and this is pretty high pressure, okay? Both of these, as they start to move south, so if we're in the north here, if this is Earth, and we're in the north versus the south, as these air masses, I'll use a different color to watch out you don't fall off. Use a different color to show this. As these air masses start to move that way, this right here is the front. So this would be a cold front, which our next video will deal with. So as the cold air wants to sink, the dry air wants to sink, it's going to make a cold front at the front of the air. Here is also going to be a cold front. It's just not going to be quite as high of pressure. So when we're talking about air pressures, you're going to see different numbers, okay? This might be an air pressure of like 10, so let's say 12.2 millibars. This one, if you're given this, you would pick a number that's just a little bit higher, okay? A good choice for this would be something like 10, 18.1 or something like that, millibars. This is just a little bit higher pressure than that. Now, we take the Earth for our other two types of air masses. So this would be called this is called Continental Polar. That would be a CP. It comes from the continent and from the poles. This would be a Maritime Polar. Maritime means ocean. So this is an MP, air mass. If we were going to do the other two types, an MT, Maritime Tropical, or MP, nope, just making all sorts of mistakes here, a CP, Continental. I don't know. It's early in the morning. I'm an old man. We need another tropical, so it would be Continental Tropical. Old man syndrome. So both of these are tropical air masses. That would be like where you're looking at with C and D over here, okay? So C is coming from the maritime. It's coming from the water. So if we have an air mass there that's coming from the water and it's tropical, I'm going to use red to show that, okay? So it's tropical and it's maritime. So tropical air, hot air. Hot air really wants to rise. Wet air is actually very light, so wet air wants to rise. So this is going to have a really low pressure. This is the same kind of system that we studied in the beginning of the year. Hurricanes are maritime tropical systems. So if we were guessing pressure here, this would be a really low number. A really low number might be something like 980 1.0 millibars. Okay. Now the continental, if it comes from land, okay, and tropical. Well, tropical air is hot air. Hot air wants to rise, but dry air is actually a little bit heavier. So the dry air part of it wants to sink just a little bit. Okay. So it's not rising quite as much. It's not quite as light. So the pressure is going to be a little bit higher. If you had to guess, anything that's, a little bit higher than this, maybe like 990.2, something like that, millibars. So there's 4 different kinds of air masses. Those 2 things control it: wet, dry, hot, cold. Sometimes it gets confusing, especially early in the morning. Okay. But you have to understand what's going to make the air the heaviest, the lightest. The lightest air is going to make the stormiest weather. Anything that's going to rise the most makes the stormiest. So that's why hurricanes were this type of system. Hopefully I didn't leave anything out. Yuri is not super confident that I didn't leave anything out, because I obviously made a few mistakes there.